The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. This is Brian for Breaking Down Security. As I mentioned last week, this is the second part of our discussion with J.W. Goerlich, or Wolf. Wolfgang is the W, and we call him Wolf here. Anyway, that's what he told us to call him in part one. This week, we're going to be talking about the efficacy of phishing tests. Relationship building in our organizations. Security people say, well, why do our company view us as a negative or an adversary or somebody to be feared? Or when I'm walking up to people, the first thing that somebody thinks is, oh my God, what have I done wrong, or what have you? Well, maybe we do it to ourselves, right? We try to foster these positive relationships. We try to get people to shift left. We try to engage our employee / friends and work colleagues to do stuff. And then we create deception operations like phishing tests and, those kinds of things, which automatically destroys any chance of a positive relationship, because all it does is, cause them more time and effort and makes them feel bad because, oh, hey, we tricked you. Haha, we're the security people. We tricked you. Now you get to spend 2 hours watching some, crap phishing, here's how to not phish things. And so we talk a little bit about the ethical quandary that we put ourselves in when we do things like phishing tests. And what is the goal of the phishing test? Is it, hey, people will click on things because we know that's a given. There's going to be people clicking on things. Why do we collect metrics that show how many people clicked on something when instead we should treat it maybe like, okay, yeah, we're going to assume that they're going to click on something. So we need to just talk about what that means for security in terms of the damage or the blast radius of somebody clicking on something that then infects their box or what have you. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that this week. There's some links in our show notes to various stories that we talked about for ethical and effective phishing tests. And so I'm gonna go have a good one and enjoy part 2 of our discussion here. If you would like the full version of this interview with Wolf and Amanda and myself, you can go and subscribe to our Twitch. And you'll get the VODs, or the video on demand, which is we have about 160 hours of video there, including additional podcasts that we've done where we've not published the entire audio of that, which may include up to 30 to 40 minutes of additional content that you didn't get on the podcast here. So, and that's just us talking and hanging out with the guests and talking more about various facets of this. So you might find value in that if there's an additional 30 or 40 minutes there you'd want to see. So, all right, have a good one. I think everybody should. I think everybody should go to RSA at least once. So I'll say that. I will say that at least once if they can swing.
I'd go again.
Okay.
I wouldn't pay for it myself.
Agreed. Right.
Just because San Francisco's crazy expensive.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And I mean, I've went off and on for years, so I'm admittedly biased. I like San Francisco.
Okay. I don't hate San Francisco either. I've been up there a couple times. I used to be stationed in Monterey. So
okay.
I got to go up Santa Cruz, San Jose, that whole area. I love middle California. I thought Carmel and that whole Big Sur, that whole area in the Central Coast is just amazing. So I hope besides Monterey is a thing. I would love to drive up from San Diego when I get down there. So, cool. All right. So, Wolf, the other reason we had you on was to you were talking about risk management, risk frameworks, and security awareness training. So, part of security awareness training is doing things like, pulling up your LMS system, running Flash 5, pulling up, videos that, are in black and white and talking about how your Active Directory is awesome, and then, clicking all the way through, answering questions that a 5-year-old could answer, and you get 100% and you're done. Other things are like awareness training, like the new hotness is phishing tests and phishing exams. And we'll send out a cool email that tricks everybody into clicking on it. And so we've had discussions about security awareness training in the past here. We've actually discussed it in news articles and stuff. And they were talking about how, 70% of companies are spending their budget on security awareness training. And yet we still have phishing. We still have whaling. We still have vishing and smishing and all the ishings and breaches caused by that, and ransomware. You have discussions about security awareness. What is in your opinion, the issue that we have with security awareness training?
Oh, it's just we do it all wrong. I mean, look, here's the thing. One of my favorite studies about this was in 2020. They looked at the very best of security awareness training programs. And they found that less than 15% of the people changed their behavior afterwards.
Okay.
Less than 15% of the best programs. I recently got to hang out with some of the researchers at MSU, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Because I hear anecdotally that we do a phishing campaign, and then people's performance on recognizing phish actually goes down the very next time a phish comes through. What's going on? And they said, well, part of the problem is that so much of the awareness information we try to give people is outdated or wrong. Like, oh, it needs to have typos and needs to call you by the wrong name, and hover over the URL. And you effectively train someone to think if it doesn't show those indicators, it's not a phish. So if you look at some of the common good phish these days, it doesn't even match our security awareness training. And the researchers were doing this really interesting thing where they're interrupting people. Hey, what do you think's going on? What do you think? After they did a phish test, and one of the people kept saying, no, I know this isn't a phish because it doesn't look like what they trained us. There's no typos. And so they just kept going on and on and on until they're transferring money, right? I mean, it's ridiculous things like that. The problem is that we try to make security everyone's business, which I think in theory sounds lovely, right? Safety is job one, while neglecting the fact that security is our job. and you're never going to be able to get people to know it as good as we do. And yet when you don't know it as good as we do, we then mock you and make comics about you and tell jokes about how terrible everybody is. So, I mean, just in general, I think the entire way that we approach awareness and education needs to be rethought. And there's certainly some companies and some individuals who are doing that, but it's so frustrating to me to see it again and again and again be done wrong.
Yeah. Okay. My wife, who is getting her doctorate in adult learning and education, she said a lot of curriculum that is being built is built with the mindset that we're all still in high school and we're all still learning in specific ways like we did in high school, where it was repetition, when in fact at our advanced youth, we learn differently. And
Yeah.
she is one of her discussions on that, and she works in the LMS field currently, where she works is how they are making training that is useful in this case. I know that I don't learn the same way that I used to learn because I don't have the time and effort to do that. And, a lot of the training that I have been given for security training, one, because I can just skip to the end normally and get an 80% on those things. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of training it is. It's like, if you have to sit and watch a video or, something that's more than, 20 minutes, I'm immediately checked out. I don't know if it's my brain or whatever it is, but I do not retain hardly anything, like you said. So what are our options here if, the limit of somebody's span of attention is, 25 minutes? I mean, the MTV generation, where our attention span is as good as a music video or something like that. So
The MTV generation. When was the last time music videos were on MTV?
I watch
I
I
was
want
in
my
high
80s.
school. I was in high school, probably.
Okay,
Middle
that's
school?
true. That's true.
Grade school.
It's been a while.
Been a while.
I'm old. God
I
damn.
Well, and so this is another thing, right? Is that um we're still teaching the same things that were happening when Amanda was in middle school. I mean, it's like, please don't use the season or your kid's name as a password, right?
Right.
And how do we even measure that? Oftentimes, we're defaulting with security awareness to measuring it by doing some sort of phish campaign, which has got all sorts of other problems.
Right.
So, I think we've got plenty of examples of how to do it wrong. How to do it right, I think we've got very, very few.
Right. Right. So, with regards to phishing tests, we've got some links in our show notes that I'll be posting up in here. I was reading through the simulated research from Security Week, and they're saying I actually tried to find something that said phishing tests are good versus phishing tests are bad to try to balance things out here. But it said, like you said, simulated phishing tests make organizations less secure. A 15-month phishing experiment done in partnership with an unnamed publicly traded global company. Researchers at ETH Zurich found embedded training during simulated phishing exercises did not make employees more resilient to email lures and can have unexpected side effects that can make employees even more susceptible to phishing. It's rough. Overall, the study participants clicked on 6,680 out of 117,000 simulated phishes. That's not bad, 5%, like you said. But yeah, I mean, they said they found many repeated clickers who fell victim to multiple lures and concluded that many employees and organizations will eventually fall for phishing if continually exposed. It just, whatever, we've talked about this a lot too. It's like, all you need is the right carrot to phish somebody. I know that if somebody sends me a Kickstarter that has something that looks like a D&D module that I may have kickstarted on, I will click that fucking link every time because I am a Kickstarter freak and I support all that stuff. So if somebody sent me something even closely related to that, I would click on it. Please don't send me any emails with Kickstarter shit in it.
Someone
Go ahead.
Someone got me last summer.
Really?
It was actually surprisingly well done. Someone was trying to get into my Instagram account.
Okay.
And they recognized that MFA. So I saw the login prompt and I was like, oh, nice try, you dork. I defeated you with MFA, and I beat my chest and went on my day. An hour later, I'm in a meeting, and mind you, in my head, I'm like, someone was trying to get into my Insta account because I keep seeing them hit the MFA. Yeah. I get an email from Instagram, the one, whenever you switch computers, right? Was this you? It said, was this you? We just saw you log in from Yugoslavia on a Windows 7 computer with Internet Explorer.
Oh,
and needless to say, none of those three things match my use pattern. And it said, if this wasn't you, click this link. How quickly do you think I clicked that link?
Yeah.
Like, mash that link. But here's the thing. So in our environment, we're using DNS security in the CASB. So the minute I clicked that link, my DNS security popped up a message. My CASB popped up a message. And they're like, Wolf, you sweet summer child. That's a malware site. What are you doing? Bless your heart. Close that. Don't ever do that again. Right. And this is one of the things. Now, I'll tell you, I'm going to come back to where I've seen this done or heard this is done right. But this is a good example of we always expect people to do better. But if you look at multiple different industries, like when people first started flying planes, people went, wow, they're crashing planes. People must be stupid. Maybe the planes are going too fast. Maybe the human mind just can't keep up. And it took someone actually sitting down with the pilots going, oh, wait a minute. They can't reach the pedals and all the levers look the same. This is terrible design, right? We had the same thing in car manufacturing. We had the same thing in automotive safety for years and years. Why are people having so many car accidents? They asked circa 1920 to 1960. We always blame the people, and really, any good industry sits down, does good root cause analysis, and puts in place good controls.
Right. Yep. So I have worked at companies that have done the phishing exercises because for whatever reason, I don't know if I don't know if this was the same kind of mentality where management didn't believe that phishing was an issue. So we had to go out and prove it. The same thing is like, well, we need a pen test to actually show that we're vulnerable because I've told them that we're vulnerable, but they don't believe me. So, we're using these things as an agent of change. In my older age here, I've gotten a little more pragmatic about building relationships within my organization. And, we're all supposed to be friendly and happy, and security is supposed to be the friendly, approachable company. And then it's like, let's send out something that is deceptive, and they make them hate us. And then they have to spend time not doing their work and doing email training instead. Should we continue to do these things? Because I did see some articles on like, here's how to do these things correctly. And I was like, I don't think we should be doing them at all, right? Or maybe we should be looking at different metrics than what we're expecting. Like we shouldn't be looking at things like click rate. We should be looking at who didn't click on it, who reported it, how many people reported it. I mean, what are some of the other, other metrics that we should be looking at in a positive light instead of, hey, you clicked on it, you get to take another 2 hours of, email security training?
I tell you, in my opinion, the information security industry will have arrived when the phishing simulation dies. I think the idea that, let's teach my kid not to get his lunch money robbed by waiting till he walks in the door, punching him in the gut, and stealing his lunch money is exactly what we're doing with a lot of these lures.
Right.
Now, on the metrics side, I'm going to throw it over to you and Amanda in just a minute, because one of the very first questions we had about security was your phishing program, because I thought you were doing something very intriguing. But Brian, one example, and this was given to me by Chris Merkel. So I was having a conversation about phishing companies need to die. We need to kill this industry. And I was getting very frustrated. And what he does, which I think is really interesting, is instead his phish simulations, instead of popping up training or shaming you or making you feel terrible, what his phish simulations do is very similar to what happened to me. If you get caught with one of his simulated phish, it pops up the exact same security message that you would get if it was a real phish. And he tracks in the back end, people report it. And then he does not track that down to the individual, he tracks that at the department level. And I like that for a variety of different reasons. The person doesn't feel that they're targeted. They don't feel the security company is out to get them. Their job's not in the line. And security isn't maintaining a hit list that's used by HR to dismiss somebody. All these things we've seen in a variety of different companies.
Okay. All right. So Ms. Berlin, tell us a little bit about your phishing work there.
It's been a while.
Back when she was in middle school.
Back when I was in middle school, we were phishing people in regards to music videos. What was your top 3 TRL votes?
Okay. I was poor and did not have MTV.
So, yeah. So no. So I ran a phishing thing at the hospital that I worked at, and we didn't do it per individual either. It was very immature because it was actually the first purple, red, whatever team type thing we ever did internally. We never had any user education when it came to anything but, I think maybe it was like how to change your password. Like was like the only like computer-based training type stuff we had in regards to tech stuff. And really we just started out with the high profile targets. So not necessarily department based, but more risk based. So if anybody had their email address that you could find publicly, those were our top targets. It was all I think it was fairly well done. As considering how immature of a program it was, just because we never faulted anybody, which was fairly common in the beginning.
Right.
We never we didn't fault them, we didn't shame them. It was all, hey, just this is how you report things,
Right.
basically. And us adding that kind of line of defense helped lessen the amount of time it took to detect things,
Right.
which was always a good metric. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I agree. Like tracking it down per user, I think is way too granular. That's like getting an alert every time a computer account gets locked out.
Right.
I think if you track it down to every time someone falls for a phishing attempt or does something that may enhance, like that's going to wear you out real quick.
Right. I actually got told a story by somebody. Their organization did the phishing exercise. Um, they penalized the people who clicked on it, but they also penalized the people who didn't report it, because it was like you viewed they were they said, well, the preview pane opened up the email, so obviously they looked at the phish, and if they didn't report it, then that was a problem. And I had to ask them, it's like, do you hate your users? Do you, what is your relationship with the enterprise and your people? And they said, oh, we're great. And I was like, have you really asked people what their opinion of you is? Because you saying that they're great and then you go and do shit like this does not bode well for your relationship with the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it bothers me there. And so, Ms. Berlin, your IR stuff, and Wolf, I'll come back to you in a second here about, so instead of doing phishing campaigns, could we not just say, okay, Bill has been, Bill clicked on a link. What does that mean to us? Incident response tabletop, the scenario is Bill has clicked on a link. What does Bill have access to? What's the damage for Bill if he got hit with this and it just happened to be ransomware, and it's, let's say he got hit by emotive. Is that a better way of doing this, where we can get rid of the phishing exercises altogether? Or, I mean, what is the impetus for management to feel like they need these phishing tests? Is it RSA that caused the phishing tests, the rise of our phishing tests, or what caused that?
If you just replace all phishing tests with zero trust,
oh wow,
then
bingo,
we'll be fine. Done. I fixed it.
Go ahead, Wolf. Go ahead, Wolf. Go ahead. Oh no. First and last time he'll be on our show.
Go. Yep. This is our debate now. Like
that hurts. That hurts.
Oh shit. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, so what's interesting about this, though, think about this for just a minute. This is another flaw in the security industry. The security industry has several like fatal flaws. One of them is we always blame the people. Another fatal flaw is we think whenever we put a control in place, that's it. Like, I will deploy this control. And the adversaries will be like, I had no idea he would have tool X. You know what? I'm reconsidering all my life choices. I'm not going to write any more spam. I'm going to go straight. And they log off the internet and they're no longer a cyber criminal, right? And arguably, flaw 3 is our habit of putting cyber in front of everything. But back to flaw 2. Whenever we put in place a control and the control reaches a certain level of efficacy, people automatically work right around it, right immediately around it. So if we could wave a magic wand, Chase Cunningham's magic wand, and all of a sudden 100% of the enterprises in the Fortune 1000 have zero trust, and everyone at the security poverty line are given more people and more money, and they're working on this problem. Well, what happened is almost immediately adversaries would work around zero trust. We're seeing this right now with multi-factor. right? When not many people were running multi-factor, multi-factor was hugely effective. Now that more people are, it's starting to be worked around. We will also start to see this with passwordless, because passwordless is phish resistant. And what that means by being phish resistant is it will not provide the credential. It will not provide the credential to a bad link, right? It will do some link checking and everything for you. No matter how much you want to click on that link and give the credential, it won't. What will happen is, and we're already starting to see signs of this, I've been predicting this for 2 years. What will happen is we're going to see a rise of OAuth and OIDC phishing, where it'll be a completely valid link and it'll say, hey, please click on this. And you'll click on it. And now the adversary will, through a trust chain, through federated identity, have access into an environment. Every time we put in place a control, an adversary works around it. Now, what that means is, will zero trust solve it? No, of course not. But would strong authentication mitigate it? Yes, of course. Are there certain things we can do? Absolutely. I think bottom line is we need to spend more time looking at how the adversaries work in, spend more time thinking about what will happen after we put in place the control, and spend less time trying to get normal people, our friends and colleagues in the company, to do our jobs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That, I mean, yeah, we waste a lot of time, you know, and I honestly think that the phishing frameworks, we don't get a lot of benefit out of it, other than it makes us look good because we use these vanity metrics to show that we're actually kind of doing something.
Look at all we did.
Yay. Yeah, we managed to deceive, a third of our company by threatening them with their insurance benefits or whatever, that kind of thing. Yeah, the last
if you doing all of that work does not do anything to decrease time to detection, like, it's worthless.
Yeah. No, that makes 100% truth. Yeah, I mean, the problem is we have security people suggesting this to management, which means the security people aren't getting it. And management thinks it's a great idea because, metrics, and if the security people think we need it, then we need to have it. And we need to probably to move that around. The phishing training, and the reason we had Wolf on also because of his post on Twitter, I'd seen Alyssa Miller mention how you can set specific rules in your email inbox to filter know before kind of phishing tests, or certain companies that advertise their phishing tests, where you just put something in your Outlook and it'll automatically delete that, and then you never get it in the first place. But what's this? YTT says, I send none. I teach the things that make me suspicious, and I'll mitigate it as soon as possible. Oh yeah, excellent, YTT. Digital Warhead says, I agree. My company only sends phishing attempts and no educational follow-up or cybersecurity articles in their daily mailer. It's just like they keep casting into a pond of goldfish and keep picking them off with no learning. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So I've been collecting a series of tips on people who either are not phishing or are phishing uniquely. I mentioned Chris Merkel and his example of every fish is anonymous and it looks just like a regular fish, right? So if anyone is like, hey, I am not phishing, I'm collecting other evidence this way, or I'm doing awareness training that way, I would love to hear about it. I am meeting with researchers on this topic, into it, because we're coming up on 30 years, believe it or not. We're coming up on 30 years of phish. And and I would like to see that the simulation end. And I would like to see us get better. So for people who do have some great ideas, please let us know.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. We could definitely replace phishing exercise, phishing engagements like this with, so we're not allowed as the blue team or the security people internally to do phishing exercises. Should we continue to allow security assessors to use those as an in? Because you hear stories about pen testing firms are like, oh, well, I spent 2 weeks trying to get in, via this way, but I just decided in the end to send a phish, and oh yeah, somebody clicked on it and I'm in. Should we still allow those as a part of the scope for engagements, or should we just make those off limits like DDoS testing?
Why are we testing what we know? Yes, if you send my people a phish, you will get in. Also, I think that can still backfire. So, Ian Meyer is another person I've talked to, and he's got a great series of talks on ethical fisheries. And when I was talking with Ian, I told him the story. I'll tell you guys that we were trying to get in. I was doing the advisory and program development. My red team was testing our work. So I'm meeting with the CISO. I'm meeting with his director, and I'm asking some questions. And all of a sudden, both of their phones start blowing up. And the CISO steps out. He says, "I'll be right back." And then I'm just talking with the director. And the director is like, "Oh my God, I gotta go too." And then I'm all alone. Like, what is going on? So later on in the day, I found out what had happened. We had sent a phish from HR. The CEO had remembered vaguely HR talking about doing some surveys and put together the CEO's email. And he included that phish in his email and said, "We really care about everyone. Everyone should, reply to this right away," and sent it out company wide. So our pretext got sent out, and I think our click rate was like 90%, right? Because like everyone, if the CEO says do it, do it.
Right.
Now,
Right.
you may say, let's take the red team perspective. Oh, that was a great test. We showed them, we got in. Let's take the security team's perspective. Do you think that CEO was on board after being tricked to bring in another security consultant?
No.
Or to do anything like that again? No.
Yeah.
No. The damage that did to the relationships at the executive level, incalculable. But our red team was certainly happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
we know these things will work.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Let me see. I was trying to find some stuff out here. Okay. I think that's pretty much all we've got here. So what are some, okay, so phishing is out. You don't like phishing. You want to get rid of phishing altogether, phishing tests in this case. Wolf, what other things from a training point of view would you like to get rid of?
We have 9 minutes.
Well, I mean, we could go a little longer if you'd like, if you want to be loquacious about it. We're not beholden to the 2-hour mark.
You're not going to have more children come through this door.
I hear you. I hear you. All right.
Yes.
Let's pick the top one.
That is a long list.
What's the top?
I think just the top. Well, I think just in general, anytime we're trying to tell people to just stop and think, we're really doing the wrong thing. If you look at like system 1, system 2 thinking, right? Thinking fast and slow.
Yep.
What do people prefer? They spend most of their time thinking fast. As a matter of fact, I think the ratio is 9 to 1. Right, out of 10 activities, you want 9 of them just to be automatic. Yeah, we're going to be the security team that said, no, every 10 times you need to stop and think through everything you're doing. What kind of advice is that? I really think we need to look at wherever people are having trouble completing those controls. And instead of going, wow, we just need to give them more awareness training and let them know, maybe if we just had better data and better colors and maybe not a black and white video, but something with music, something catchy from the 90s. That'll maybe we just need to pause and go, wow, what is it in our design, in our understanding of the organization, our implementation of security technology that's just lacking? What are we missing?
Right.
And take that approach.
Yep. So does in-house created training, is it better, or is there still a market for, Joe Bob Billy's, security training companies videos?
So I was talking with the CISO, and he said something that really struck home to me. He's like, do you try and do organizational change? But yeah, absolutely. Do you try to like lead change efforts and change culture? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I love culture change. I love culture frameworks. So do you have a degree in organizational psych? I'm like, no, I do not. He's like, well, I do, and I don't do it. Do you know why? I'm like, no clue. He goes, because my degree was 20 years ago, and I'm a technologist. Why in technology are we so convinced that we can educate people? Brian, you mentioned your wife is going through a doctorate on this. Why are we so convinced that we can educate people better? right? That we can lead culture better. We do all these things in part because we got into technology and no one else knew it, and we
Right.
did. So we oftentimes think, well, I don't know that other thing, so how hard can it be? There was a tweet walking around that really like captured, I think, a lot of our attitude. And it was this little girl, and she's like, "I want to be an astronaut." And her mom's like, "Well, you'd have to, go to college and get a doctorate, and you'd have to go physical training, and you'd have to apply to NASA, and you'd have to get accepted in the program, and you'd have to do their thing." And the little girl thought for a minute. She goes, "Okay, that's 5 things. I think I can do 5 things." And that's our
Nice.
attitude. It's just 5 things, right?
Nice.
I honestly think, and I would love to talk to your wife. Honestly, this is where I'm at the moment, Brian. But I honestly think we need to reach out to people who have these expertise and leverage them and stop
Right.
thinking we have the solution for it all.
That's cool. Yeah, she actually went to a training or an educational conference on this on talking about adult learners and stuff, and I was like, wow, that would be a conference that I'd like to go to talk about education stuff because yeah, there's definitely some room for us folks trying to either create content kind of like this. I don't imagine that people are actually using our shit for internal stuff. Sorry if for internal people there, but the yeah, it would be interesting to talk to those folks. And I've actually been trying to get my wife on the show here, but she has super imposter syndrome. So she's still working on her dissertation parts and trying to get that stuff done. But I will have her on at some point in the future, talking about it, training and stuff. And I'll send along your information and see what you two can talk about on that. So
Yeah, I love
okay.
that.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So I know that it's getting late for the folks on the East Coast, Miss Berlin, and like you said, she's yelling at kids behind her, very mom-like, trying not to let people know, get your ass in bed, get your ass in bed now, or something like that. But
I want a hug. I don't want to brush my teeth first.
it's okay, Mom. It's okay, Mom. You're doing great. You're doing great. But so I think we should end the show here. We can definitely have Wolf back on at some point in the future, I hope, if he's amenable to that. That was it for Breaking Down Security this week. You can join Wolf online on Twitter at Goerlich, JW Goerlich, JWGOERLICH. And Miss Berlin is Info Sister, INFOSYSTIR. The podcast, the broadcast, the Twitch broadcast is at Breaksec, BRAKESEC. You can follow me at Brian Break, BRYANBRAKE, and Mr. Betcher, of course, the lead developer of log-md.com. You can find him at Betcherpwned, BOETTCHERPWNED. I'd like to thank all of our Twitch subscribers, our Patreon supporters, for their generous tip jar support, if you will. And I would also like to remind people that we don't put the full interviews on here on our audio podcast to give people incentive to maybe potentially do Patreon support or to do a Twitch subscription, which Twitch subscriptions are $5 a month. If you have an Amazon Prime account, they are free. So if you log in to Twitch and you subscribe with your Prime account, you give us a free subscription. We get money for that. You don't pay anything because it's a benefit of your Amazon Prime account. So I mean, there's other ways you can support us as well. Word of mouth advertising. Tell people about the podcast and the broadcast. Maybe Twitch is not your bag of rocks or whatever other person, good thing that you put in bags. Tell them about our podcast and our broadcast. And, hopefully, if you cannot give or are unable to give or unwilling to give, maybe your friends will open their pocketbooks, if you will. And that money goes to things like scholarship opportunities for people in underserved groups. We try to do the InfoSec campout with as few sponsors as possible because we are, I wouldn't say anti-RSA, but we are definitely anti, getting sponsor money. to drive the thought processes or potential conflicts there. So, and it also goes just to pay for time and effort of hosting, Zoom, domain registration, whatever. So, and you get other benefits like access to our Slacks and Discord. If you want to join us on our Discord, you can join us at discord.gg/breaksec, and you go in and you click OK to accept the code of conduct, and you can join us and talk about all kinds of things. And you can DM us on our Twitch and gain access to a Slack instance as well. So I think that's it. Thank you all for joining us. This is Breaking Down Security. I'm Brian Brake, and I want to remind everybody to be safe, take care of yourselves, and because as we're fond of saying here, you're the only you have. And we'll talk